Welcome to my 217th video on my work with OO gauge. This is going to be a rather long one, as this is stuff that I've been working on for the past couple of months or more. I didn't post about it before, as it was all rather up in the air. I wouldn't entirely say it's reached a positive conclusion even now, but at least now I have some sort of a result to show, and I think there's quite a bit of relevant stuff along the way. If it looks as though this whole subject is going to get too long, I may split this into multiple parts. Basically, what started me off on this whole thing was that I picked up this Hornby Dublo 3-rail Silver King cheaply at a train show back in October 2022. Now, this model was in BR livery as I got it, but of course it was originally an LNER, loco being one of Gresley's A4s. I really only run pre-war LMS in OO gauge. So I was thinking I could use the running chassis of the Silver King for an LMS loco, perhaps. Well, you can see the chassis here. It's a Pacific, of course, 462 wheel arrangement. The wheels are coloured black, and there are no cylinders modelled at the front of the valve motion, as this chassis was made to fit inside a streamlined body. So what that suggested in terms of an LMS loco is obvious, a streamlined Coronation class. Those were the only streamlined steam locos that the LMS ran, and if William Stanier had had his way, those would never have been streamlined. The streamlining was only done at the insistence of LMS collective management opinion that it would be good for publicity, rivaling Gresley's streamlined engines on the LNER. I thought I would start by just checking out whether this idea might work at all, using a body from a streamlined Coronation class that I already had. I had several in silver-lined blue, which was how they were originally finished for the Coronation Scott train, but I decided that I'd prefer one in gold-lined crimson for my Dublo railway, so that it could be run with regular LMS mainline coaches. The only crimson streamlined Coronation class that I had was this one, a Hornby model of the Duchess of Norfolk, R2531 from 2006. So this was a fairly late production Hornby model by my standards. It used this kind of connection between loco and tender, where two separate contacts on the drawbar from the loco contacted two separate parts on the tender, the metal pin and the plate above, so allowing power from both side rails to be passed from tender to loco. This gives lots of functioning pickups, but since the drawbar is constantly moving around as the loco runs, those little wires soldered to the contacts are rather prone to breaking off. I wanted to remove the body from the chassis so that I could try the body on the Silver King chassis. The body was held on by one screw under the front bogie, as seen here, and by another screw rather awkwardly placed under the drawbar on the back pony truck, as seen here. I undid the screw holding on the back pony truck to allow me to get at the back body retention screw. There was a spring under the screw holding on the pony truck to provide downward pressure. I wasn't able to completely remove the pony truck because of the wires connected to the drawbar, but I could move it aside, allowing access to the body retention screw. I undid the rear body retention screw, as seen here. Then I reattached the pony truck, as this seemed the simplest way to avoid problems with the wires. I moved the front bogie aside and undid the front body retention screw. This allowed me to remove the chassis from the body. Here's the chassis, a typical later Hornby made-in-China DCC-ready chassis, in this case with an 8-pin DCC socket. And here's the body, basically all plastic, but the body retention screws screw into brass bushings, and there's an aluminium tube to act as a spacer between chassis and body at the front. Here's the Hornby Coronation body with the Dublo Silver King. And here with the Silver King chassis. I placed the body onto the Silver King chassis. It appeared that it might fit reasonably well. I'm sure the result is not very accurate to the prototype, but it didn't look ridiculous to me. There would be a running issue with the body as it was. As you can see here, the rear pony truck wouldn't be able to turn much as it would be obstructed by the detail pipework below the cab on the body. But I didn't see that as a major problem with the basic concept. If I finally went ahead with using the Silver King chassis with a streamlined Coronation class body, I could simply use a body without the detail pipework under the cab, so allowing the pony truck to swing. I didn't make any effort to mount the Duchess of Norfolk body to the Silver King chassis in any permanent way. I just propped it temporarily in place. I had no intention of actually using the Duchess of Norfolk body for this project. I just wanted to see if the basic idea seemed sound. If it did, I'd look into obtaining a body to use. I wanted to keep the Duchess of Norfolk in its original condition for running on my two-rail layouts, as it was a nice model, and it was the only Crimson Streamlined Coronation class that I had. Now, just a little video of this initial proof of concept. Okay, this is just proof of concept phase 1 on this project. What do we have here? We have something that sort of looks, at least a bit, like a streamlined Coronation class on Dublo 3-rail. And, famous last words, it does actually move as well. Now I'm not going to try and take it round a corner because it wouldn't go round a corner because... and it's now on a point, so it's got stuck. It wouldn't go round a corner. I know it wouldn't go round a corner because the detail pipework is in the way. That there's basically no way it is set up at the moment that the pony truck on the chassis could really turn. The bogie probably could. But also, I don't want to even give this, I don't even want to give this body to the project. This is not really a donor body. This body comes from the only red streamlined Coronation I have, and it's not attached at all at the moment. It's just resting on there. It's a plastic body. It's a plastic body, and it's just resting on there. The chassis is the chassis from a cheap... Silver King that I picked up, which runs backwards. It's got its magnet in the wrong way around. Now that I've taken the body off, let's see if I can actually get it to go round. No, it sticks as soon as... Why does it stick as soon as it gets to the point? It needs work. Yeah, it's not running worth down anyway, frankly, this Silver King chassis. I mean, it sort of runs a bit, but not much. Whoops. It goes wandering off backwards until it sticks on another point. Never seems to get over the points. I don't know what the problem is. And we got, what have I got, about 50% power on it. But I haven't serviced it, well, because I didn't... Okay, we'll stop it. Famous last words. Where is it? Changed it the other way and it won't go. It's a bit vague. Definitely. But... So I'm thinking... I don't know, maybe it's worth servicing this Silver King chassis and trying to obtain another streamlined body for it, a streamlined Coronation class body, and we might make it work. Whether we will, I don't know. After that experiment, I reassembled the Duchess of Norfolk model and tested it on my test track, just to ensure that I'd put everything back in place properly. Given where I was at this point, I thought that I'd better try to service the Silver King chassis next. It wasn't running at all well, and also it was going backwards when the controller was set to forwards as someone got its magnet in backwards. I removed the brush retainers and took out the springs and brushes. The brushes looked to be in okay condition apart from being rather dirty. I undid the nut holding on the centre rail contact assembly and connecting to the brush holder. I removed the connection to the brush holder with its various bits. Then I removed the centre rail pickup assembly from below. I undid the screw holding on the front bogie. I removed the front bogie. The front bogie had a metal bar sticking up from its top that ran in a groove in the chassis controlling the motion of the bogie. I undid the screw holding on the rear pony truck. And I removed the pony truck, which incorporated the drawbar for the tender, a simple metal loop. Now I'd basically stripped the chassis almost right down. I used a marker to record the position of the magnet, drawing lines on top of the magnet, at the back, and on the left side. As noted, the magnet was in wrong, causing the loco to travel in the wrong direction, so I was going to need to reverse the orientation of the magnet when I reassembled things. Here's a view of the magnet from the back. The red mark wasn't mine. I assume it was meant to indicate the North Pole or something. I undid the nut on the bolt that held the pole pieces to the magnet. And I took that bolt out. Now I was able to remove the magnet and the pole pieces from the chassis. The armature appeared to run very smoothly in its bearings. With a reasonable amount of play, I could make it turn just by turning the wheels. I cleaned out the chassis with electrical contact cleaner. Then I re-lubricated things with oil and grease as appropriate. I cleaned the wheels with electrical contact cleaner. And I cleaned the centre rail pickup with contact cleaner. I cleaned the wheels on the bogie. And on the pony truck. I lubricated all of the pivot points of the motion lightly with oil. Now I started to reassemble the chassis. I put the bogie back on. Here you can see how the bar on the top of the bogie runs in a groove in the front of the chassis. I put the centre rail pickup assembly back on. The top of the bolt retaining that assembly passes through an insulating piece which is held in position by grooves that fit over bosses in the chassis. It's very important that the bolt be held centred in the hole through which it passes, as it mustn't touch the sides of the hole since that would cause a short circuit to the chassis. With the bolt properly centred through the insulation piece, the assembly for connection to the brush holder was reattached and the nut tightened gently. The wire to the brush holder broke off from the contact piece whilst I was doing this, so I had to get my soldering station out and solder it back on. I cleaned the brushes with electrical contact cleaner before refitting them. I refitted the front brush held in place by the holder connected to the centre rail pickups. I put the magnet and the pole pieces back in place, putting the magnet the other way round from how it was originally, so my mark that was on the left is now on the right. I checked the polarity of the magnet with a compass. The North Pole was now on the right side, so that's probably what the little red mark on the right side of the chassis was supposed to indicate. I put the magnet installed in the chassis into my recently acquired Dodds magnetizer and remagnetized it. I installed the bolt after remagnetizing. Perhaps I should have installed the bolt first, but that would have made it harder to get the magnet properly into the magnetizer. I reinstalled the back brush. There's no need for a wire to this one, as it uses power from the side rails, which is just passed through the chassis itself. I put the chassis onto blocks so that I could test it. When I applied power to the brushes, the chassis seemed to run fine. I put the rear pony truck back on, and I took the chassis over to my 3-rail tracks to test it. So I've serviced this chassis, which is from a silver 3-rail Dublo Silver King. I've serviced it now. I was just going to say, and it runs fairly well, except it struggles with points in one way and another. It's not so much that it gets stuck on points, although it did get stuck on that one there, but then that point's particularly iffy. It's also, yeah, it's just, why is it sticking on this point? It's really annoying. And what is it with this point that everything keeps sticking on it? I mean, I don't know. It's really annoying. Everybody keeps sticking here, and I don't quite know why. But other than the points, it's also rather prone to derailing. That's the other thing with it. You can see the points, the brushes sparking there. They're probably not quite bedded back in. Not that I refaced them, I just cleaned them. Does he want to get across? Oh no, he just won't get across this damn point. It's really annoying. More power! No, he won't get across. I mean, what the heck is with it? Oh, no, of course he's derailed because I tried to do that, but... I mean, what the heck is with this point that everybody keeps stopping on it? It's just rabidly annoying. Really is rabidly blithering annoying that everybody keeps stopping on that point. So what the heck is it? See, he's stuck there and he's got no contact. Why not? Oh, for God's sake, it's so annoying! No, I absolutely cannot get him over that. I just don't know what it is. I just don't know. He's going over lots of other points fine, but he almost always stops on this one, or nearly stops. See, he's going over a point there, he's going over a point there, he's going over a point there, he's going over a point there. Doesn't have any problem on those, but that one he almost stops on. And I've tried and tried and tried and tried to clean and adjust it. I don't think it's anything to do with him so much, it's this point, it's just, I don't know what it is. There's just something about it that's just not particularly good, and you just don't, now I don't know what's happened, he stopped randomly for some other reason. You know, I think I'm going to conclude this video here, as things are just going to get too long. I'll continue the story in part 2 of this saga shortly, when these two options will be brought into play: an Amacom static model of a streamlined Coronation class as a possible body donor, and we'll look at the Amacom model in some detail, and an old Triang model of a Crimson streamlined Coronation class.